Welcome back. Wanted to talk a little bit about electrical issues and kind of tying in a process of tracking things down a little bit. The reason I'm using an RC car is because realistically that is where I got my start in a lot of electrical stuff. It's a good place to learn some mechanical, some electrical, and it's a fun little hobby. So this vehicle has a chirp and a dead end on the bottom. Now, the first thing to do when you're chasing down problems is ruling out your mechanical issues, ruling out other areas. What I call is get a baseline. So this car, we've already went through and made sure the gearing was proper. We made sure the differentials were proper. We made sure there was no binding on any of the bearings, any of the axles, anything like that. So we ruled out most all the mechanical that we possibly could. So that leaves us with the sight that it may be an electrical problem. Now it has this weird dead end on the bottom and some chirping. So I'm gonna see if we can show that in this video. Anna is going to try to do some videoing for us. Make sure to hold it and try to stay on the car the best you can. Don't move too fast. So if you notice, if you can see it, it hits like a turbo button where everything smooths out. But before then, see how it has that stall and then it has a little chirping? Are you having a hard time being able to video that, Anna?
Yes.
See, now we lost complete throttle. And it's back. But see, then it's still dead there. I'll try to keep it a little closer for you. You can see, I'm giving it all the beans. We have our punch level turned up. We have our radio control pushed up to where it has 120% throttle, that we are still dead on this bottom end. So, first thing we're gonna do is, since it's a sensored system, we're gonna change out the sensor wire. Welcome to my mess of a desk. Now the first thing we're gonna do is this sensor wire, I have it coiled up. Now, what this means is sometimes absolutely nothing. I have it in some shrink tubing. The reason I have it in shrink tubing is if things get too hot motor-wise, this will start shrinking and I know that I'm having an overheating issue. Plus it holds it nice and tight. Now the problem with it, making problems here. The problem with it being coiled, possibly, if the shielding's bad, is it can get cross-reference stuff. So it can, reference isn't necessarily the right word, but I also can't run this camera. Crosstalk, chatter, which can cause a problem. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull this out, I'm gonna pull this off of here, and I'm gonna lengthen this cord out. So you see we have a lot of extra cord. So in doing so, I'm gonna separate it out a little bit, and then we're gonna try running it just dangling out like this and see if we get a change of things. Okay, so what we have is a new sensor wire. One, you can see it's a shorter sensor wire. We're gonna test this. A couple of things that I wanted to point out is you're probably noticing this is on Velcro. This is not a secret by any means, but this is one thing that I always recommend doing with any electronics, is putting on Velcro. One, you can attach, unattach, reattach, and move it around when needed. So repairs like this are much quicker and easier than double-sided tape and redoing all that. And two, this creates an isolation. So a vibration isolation platform in a sense. So it's not taking those big, huge, hard hits quite as hard. It is slightly more mobile even than double-sided tape. Electronics, probably one of the worst things for them is, well, obviously water, but after that's vibration. the more rigid vibration it has, the quicker it can break down those components and break down the soldering joints inside, things like that. You run that risk. So I'm going to go ahead and attach this new shorter little cable and see if that solves our problem or not. Okay guys, so we've replaced the sensor wire with a shorter sensor wire and a new one, obviously. Now we're going to see if we still have this dead spot on the bottom or cross chatter. Well, I don't think it was cross chatter because we unfolded it. So, and instantly you can see a difference. So everything that when talking to professionals and a few others, because I always ask a lot of people questions, is everybody was turning mechanical. The gearing was wrong, or the drive shaft or differential or binding or things like that. We now have instant power off the bottom, and it was all caused by a $3, now she's so much faster, a $3 piece. So if you're having a chirping noise or something like that, obviously check your mechanical and everything. But if you're having chirping noise, or some people are going to call it cogging, but cogging is slightly different than what you're hearing, but it relates to it as well. Cogging is the magnetic parts of the motor, how it's hitting each of those magnetic poles, and you feel that clunk, clunk, clunk as it seats into the magnetic pole. But as you can see, we have now fixed it with a $3 fix. Electrical problems can be a challenge to hold into, but not impossible to figure out. You just have to deduce what is causing it and where. The reason I went to this sensor wire is, one, it's cheap. Two, the other one was too long. Three, the sense that I was getting was that it was not communicating properly, and that's just from experience and checking things out. So that's the only reason I went that way versus throwing a new motor in it, which a lot of people do, or throwing a new ESC in it, which a lot of people do. And if you have a new ESC or a spare one sitting around, sure, swapping components is fine, but I would never suggest buying a new one, especially if you can buy a $3 part and rule it out. But now we have instant power, which now I'm gonna have to turn this booger all the way down. Look at her go now. Woo-wee. All right, thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate it. Have a good one.